that noise going. Make it louder. Make it louder. For Jeremy Corbyn. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for standing up against racism. Thank you to the FBU, as ever, always with us and always supporting us by providing platforms and facilities. This bill that's been put to Parliament now is a disgraceful piece of legislation. It starts on the front page by saying it's not compliant with the Human Rights Act, and what it leads to is the removal of this country, ultimately I believe, from the European Convention on Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, and it will damage the human rights of everybody in our society. And it tries to put all the blame on a relatively small group of people who are so desperate they pay somebody to try and get them across the channel in some dangerous dinghy. Nobody in this square would willingly risk their lives and risk the lives of their families getting into one of those dinghies unless they were absolutely desperate. And I just heard the Home Secretary saying they were going to close down the people traffickers. The people traffickers exist because this policy creates a market for them and creates an opportunity for them to exploit people. And as Gary Lineker and others have pointed out, it's the vile language that's used to dehumanize a group of desperate people that leads us into an ever more dangerous and ever more desperate and ever more racist place. We have to stand against this bill and all that it entails. Now, in January, Bel Ribeiro Addy and myself went over to Calais. We went there to look at the situation. I'd been there before when the camps were open. The camp was awful, the camp was dangerous, but the camp was a sense of community, and there was some solidarity in that camp as well. What we now have is desperate people hanging around in Calais, being harassed by the far right and harassed by the police, their tents being torn apart, their water carriers being stabbed so they get nothing to drink, and they risk all across the channel. Some of them die as a result of it. What is the answer to this other than two things? One, work out why people seek asylum. It's not rocket science to draw the list of countries: Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Eritrea, Sudan, and so many others. Countries we've either been at war in or sold arms to create a war in. There is a connection. There is a connection between wars, human rights abuse, environmental degradation, and those that are seeking asylum. And this bill basically criminalises anyone who arrives in this country in a very desperate state, sends them off to Rwanda and puts them in a detention centre on the way there. It's a disgrace and it's a shame on this country. What we need is a European-wide movement for refugees, for human rights, and for an understanding of the causes of asylum. So our voice here tonight, here in Parliament Square, is to say to the MPs over there, vote against this bill, oppose this bill. If it goes through tonight and it goes in a committee stage next week, oppose it all the way through. Because if we don't do that, the ratchet of racism has gone a stage further. And so in the meantime, also come on the demonstration on Saturday, 12 noon at Portland Place outside the BBC. Now the BBC has had a very interesting weekend. They've been forced to back down in the face of a very good tweet sent out by Gary Lineker and supported by many others. Solidarity with the asylum seekers, solidarity with the victims, and as ever, we stand with the victims, not with the oppressors. That's why we're here today. I'm going to go now to Finsbury Park Mosque to speak at a meeting there. Can I carry your greetings to the people of my community who are equally opposed to this horrible bill? Thank you very much. Jeremy Corbyn!
Say it loud, say it clear.